Clarie had just been transferred to an old hospital in a small town. That night was her first shift on night duty. The hospital felt much eerier at night, with long, dimly lit hallways and the faint hum of medical equipment that sounded like distant whispers. While checking the patient list, she noticed something odd. Room 13 was not recorded in the system. There was no patient name, no medical records, as if the room didn't exist. Ignoring her curiosity, Clarie carried on with her rounds, checking on other patients. As she walked past the hallway toward the nurse's station, something caught her eye. The light in room 13 was on. She was certain no one had entered. The door was slightly ajar, and from inside, she could hear a faint voice groaning in pain. Cautiously, she stepped inside. An elderly man lay on the hospital bed, his face pale, his body frail. An IV was still attached to his arm, and the heart monitor beeped faintly. He looked weak, yet his gaze was piercing, as if trying to tell her something. Clarie scanned the room. It was clean and neatly arranged, as if it was still in use. But how could that be? Wasn't this room supposed to be empty? She bit her lip, unsure of what to do, but eventually decided to leave and report this to the senior nurse. However, when she brought it up to her colleagues, they fell silent. One of the senior nurses even looked unsettled. They insisted that room 13 had been vacant for years, with no patients assigned to it. Clarie was adamant, claiming she had just seen someone inside. The following night, her curiosity led her back to the room. This time, the light was off. The bed appeared empty, but the heart monitor was still running. The IV that had been in the man's hand now dangled loosely. A chill ran down her spine, as if something unseen was watching her from the darkness. As she turned to leave, something made her stop. A faded photograph hung on the wall. Clarie stepped closer to get a better look. It was an old photo of a group of nurses from past years. Among them, she saw her own face. Her heart pounded. That was impossible. She had just started working at this hospital last week. Her hands trembled as she touched the photo, and suddenly, a foreign memory flashed through her mind. She saw herself walking through these hallways, but in an older nurse's uniform. She saw the patient in room 13, an elderly man gripping her hand tightly, pleading for help. Then, another image appeared, a man shoving her roughly, her body hitting the floor, followed by the crack of her neck snapping. Clarie gasped, stumbling back. The memory felt too real. She caught her breath and turned toward the hospital bed. The old man was there again, looking at her with sorrowful eyes. Slowly, she turned to the mirror in the corner of the room. Her reflection wasn't there. As realization dawned on her, she stepped back. The door began to close with a slow creak, locking her inside with the patient. Now, she remembered everything. She wasn't a new nurse at this hospital. She had worked here years ago, and she had died here. And room 13? It was not for ordinary patients. It was for those who could not leave.